With the emergence of many contemporary environmental issues, it is only pertinent that we follow these environmental issues with sincere calls to environmental awareness as the first line of defense and protection of the environment by involving the public in solving and confronting these environmental issues, as well as reducing pollutants and supporting official effort towards eradicating these challenges. It is on this note that I welcome you to today's episode of the program Environment and You on Independent Television. I am your regular host, Catherine Eyemese. The program is a platform where we discuss environmental issues, thereby providing solutions or giving measures towards preventing such environmental issues from occurring, and through expert discussion on the program. Before I introduce my guest of today to you, we'll quickly go on a short break, and when we come back, the program Environment and You continues. Stay with us. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is still the program Environment and You on Independent Television Abuja, and on today's episode of the program we shall be discussing a topic that says the role of sensitization, community sensitization in national development. And I shall not be doing this alone. I have a guest with me in the house who shall be doing justice to the topic of discussion. She is the Director Forecasting Response and Mitigation, FCT Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, in the person of Mrs. Florence Wenegeme. Did I get that right?
Yes.
You are welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, viewers.
All right, to start with, I would like to know your assessment of the level of awareness of environmental issues amongst common Nigerians.
Yes, the awareness is becoming very aggressive,
okay,
and citizens, you will agree with me, believe in this sensitization, because we are beginning to witness a lot of changes in the attitude of some of our, especially in the FCT here. The attitude of residents of FCT is actually changing because they are beginning to understand the importance of our environment, the importance of keeping that environment clean, the importance of trying to take care of that environment for a healthy living. Because you can see that these days we have a lot of waste, but people, what they do now is they try to put them together for recycling. It wasn't like that 2, 3, 5 years ago, but there's a great increase this year because of the awareness. And when you go around, I agree we have Environmental Protection Board who goes about evacuating some of the waste that are being dumped indiscriminately. We have people now on their own, when they see you throw something, they say, no, don't do this, this is wrong. And that is because of the awareness people are beginning to realize. They are beginning to know that it is very important to keep our environments clean.
Okay, from what you said so far, you are not where we used to be, talking about awareness creation towards clean and greener environment, and people are beginning to respond positively. Yes, we are doing things right now, but we ought to do more. Now, where do you think we need to put more effort? What's kind of awareness is lacking before, and you think we need to concentrate on for a better response?
Yes. If you were following FCT Emergency Management Agency the past 2 weeks, you will see that we were carrying out sensitization in all the communities in the 6 area councils of FCT. So we did that aggressively, and we carried the community along. We got up to the grassroots. We carried all the traditional leaders along with us, and members of the communities in each area council were well represented. And it was expected that they would go back in turn and talk to their own members of their wards, members of their communities, to create awareness. So the fact that we were able to put these traditional rulers together with members of their wards, representatives of their wards, we had the youths were represented, religious leaders were represented, different communities were represented, and we had youths, women leaders, they were all there, and they were really excited. One, I want you to understand that when we spoke to them about the issue of outbreak of epidemic because their environment is not kept clean, they were really happy. They embraced it because we just gave them a simple example of blocked drainages within your environment, dumping of refuse indiscriminately, and there's no free flow of water. When you have a pool of water, accumulated, stagnant water, you are breeding mosquitoes. And what do you expect from there? The next thing is malaria. Outbreak of another epidemic, maybe cholera, malaria, typhoid, they come up. But if there's free flow of water and the drainages are kept clean, definitely you will not have mosquitoes around you. So when we told them this, most of them promised us that what they will do now is within their communities, they were going to arrange for environmental sanitation within their communities. Some of them said they'll be doing it on Friday mornings. Some said Saturday morning they'll be doing it, that they are going to organize it, because they were complaining of how frequent they are beginning to have the outbreak of malaria, typhoid within their communities. So when we give them just this simple example, I'm telling you, Catherine, they were happy and they appreciated it. Especially the women there. You can trust mothers when they are ready to do something. They will come out to it so well. So the woman leader among them assured us that every family will make sure they keep their environment clean every day. Then on Saturday, entire members of the family will come together and see how they will keep that environment clean. In addition to that, they have agreed that they are going to plant more trees, because we spoke to them. We tried to discourage them about this deforestation. we need trees. Look at how beautiful the environment of ITV is looking because of the trees we planted. It's looking beautiful. You can go out there, sit down. It will give you a healthy living. Looking very clean. And we agreed. We have all agreed to do that.
Thank you very much, Ma. Last week, Friday, was International Day of Disaster Risk Reduction. And talking about that, what would you say, what should we know about disaster preparedness?
Yes. Past years, we have always talked about disaster risk reduction. We have been working on it. We've gone around. We have our response plan. FCT Emergency Management Agency. We have a response plan. This response plan cannot be successful without other MDAs. Whatever has to do with disaster risk reduction, whatever has to do with disaster management, it's not a single agency's business. It's a multi-agency's business, including NGOs, including you and me, people that are living within a particular environment. When you are in an environment, what you need to do is to be able to identify the hazards you have within that environment. If you are able to identify that hazard, in disaster risk reduction, where you start from, you start by, first of all, you try to prevent it. If you cannot prevent it, because we have what we call avoidable disasters.
Exactly.
We have the humanly induced, like the indiscriminate dumping of waste, refuse, block drainages that we can take care of. So, if you cannot prevent it, if it is not something you can prevent, then you prepare to mitigate it. How do you prepare? You have identified what the hazard is. You know that there will be an outbreak of epidemic within this environment because of stagnant water, or because your house is being built without cross ventilation, outbreak of meningitis within that environment, or tuberculosis, kind of one epidemic or the other. Having identified that, you know you need to have a cross ventilation in your home. You need to keep your environment clean, keep the drainages clean to avoid accumulation of water, stagnant water, to prevent malaria, typhoid, outbreak of malaria and typhoid, the kind of. So, when you identify, you are already preparing because you try to clean it up. If you prepare to mitigate it, then it means you are trying to reduce the impact if it eventually happens. And that is it. So you really have to put everything in place. And we have gone around, we have built the capacity of communities in the FCT. We try to make them realize that these are the few steps that they will take, the do's and don'ts, to avoid the common hazards they have within their environment. And that is why last year, you recall, in the whole of this country, FCT never recorded loss of life to flooding last year. We recorded 0 loss of life. Why? Because we carried out aggressive sensitization and the residents of FCT cooperated with us, so there was no loss of life. This year, yes, while we had few flooding here and there, flash flooding here and there, is because of the river flooding that was predicted by NIMET and Nigerian Hydrological Agency based on the flood outlook and the release of water from Lado Dam. And that is it.
Okay.
But that notwithstanding, the response is, the awareness is becoming very wide, because we picked up this last, during the International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction that you just mentioned, we went around the 6 area councils and we took 10 communities in each of the area council. So you can see that we went down to the grassroots. And in the process of doing that, we didn't just carry the traditional leaders along alone. No. You agree with me that every community, they have their town criers that go about to give messages, delivering messages early hours of the day and at the close of the day. They were also carried along. And in the 6 area councils, we have local emergency committee. Disaster risk reduction or disaster management is bottom up. not from up down. No,
Okay.
it starts from the grassroots.
Grassroots.
Starting with the immediate members of that community. Then we have volunteers that we have built their capacities, we have put them in place, we build a lot of structures that we put in place, and then we have local divers, we have volunteers, we have vanguards, we have disaster marshals of recent that we have inaugurated.
Yes.
We put all this in place. From there, you go to all the 6 area councils, they have local emergency committees. And at that local emergency committees, in the area council, we have the national orientation agencies. We are all aware of the good works that the national orientation is doing in terms of sensitization. FEMA carries all these people along. They are all our stakeholders, just to make sure it gets to the grassroots. And of recent, we realized that because of this aggressive sensitization we carried out, we got to know that there are other 8 major languages in the FCT that we need to put in place. So we need to have jingles, we need to carry them along when we go out on sensitization. It was the traditional rulers that actually called our attention to it. Initially, we were concentrating on Igbo, Hausa, Yoruba, English, and Bagi. And sometimes we have somebody who will talk in Fulani, Fulfulde. Sometimes when we come across, when we go out on sensitization and we meet some bold youths, then they just come out and say they speak Guadala, they speak this, what they call with different dialects.
Yes.
And they say they want to be part of us, they want to talk to their people. And we just give them the microphone, give them the public address system, and they talk to their people. But traditional rulers cut across the 6 area councils called our attention that there are 8 other dialects.
And there's need to consider
And there's
this.
need to- Yes, so we are working on that.
All right, in line with 2023 Disaster Risk Reduction Day, what's the theme? In line with the theme, what is your message to Nigerians out there?
Yes, the basic message there is that everybody should be carried along in terms of disaster risk reduction. Not just disaster risk reduction, wherever you find yourself, whatever you are doing, talk about carrying everybody along, starting from the most vulnerable. Who are the most vulnerable among us? We have the poor people who don't even know what disaster risk reduction is all about. You have to create awareness, make them understand. With now, move to people at the grassroots that have not even gone out of their villages. Talk about women and children, the aged, people that are bedridden. We have people that are living with disabilities. The team says fighting inequality for a resilient future.
Okay.
Fighting inequality for a resilient future. Hashtag break the cycle. How can we break this cycle? We can only break the cycle by carrying everybody along. When something happens, when a disaster happens, or even when you want to eat your food, I hope you know that hunger is part of disaster now. People die of hunger now.
True.
So if you have a little of gari or a cup of gari and you want to drink, you think you have a little left, you feel you want to throw it away, please remember that there are people out there on the street, or you are not vulnerable. Maybe that person has not eaten for the past 2-3 days, or that person has just had a meal for that day. So what the team is telling us now is that we should remember the less privileged among us, the poor, the needy, people living with disabilities. Now we have called the attention of government agencies and NGOs, private sectors that can afford. If you want to build a house, especially if it is a public place, an office, make sure you have a ramp where people on wheelchairs can have access, where they can easily move. I was touched just 2 days after the International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction. I don't want to mention the office. I went to an office and I got there, somebody was on a wheelchair, he was going to the 3rd floor. Friends had to help to lift him up. So please, I'm pleading with the government. We have written, it's part of the policies we are trying to put in place. Our aim is to carry out rescue operations, create awareness, identify the hazards, identify the risks, the dangers, the disasters, the possible disasters within our communities, identify it, and then make recommendations. We have written our reports, and we have made all the recommendations, and we are pleading with the government to put most of these policies in place. You have a blind man, there's an emergency, something has happened, there's a blind man there. How does he run? Will he just move away and forget that there's somebody that is living with disability around you? That is what the team is telling us now. Now let me just one quick one. Past years, we had a team said early morning, early action. But if you don't create awareness up to the grassroots, if you don't carry the people living with disabilities along, how will they act? You want them early, how will they act? We now talked, another team, another year was talking about infrastructures. Another team spoke about economic losses. We had all this. We had another one that said home safe home. But if they're not aware, how will they handle it? That is why this year's team, we really want to appreciate the United Nations General Assembly to have come up with this particular team that has to do with we human beings, humans that manage the environment.
All right, time is no longer on our side, but before we wrap up, I would like to ask, in all the sensitization you've carried out this past few weeks, from what you said, there are positive response, and there were promises that they were going to act in line of what they have been taught. Now, is there any measures put in place to monitor or compliance from these persons?
Very well. Like I told you, up to the grassroots, we have volunteers, we have vanguards, we have local divers, and of recent we inaugurated disaster marshals. Disaster marshals are mostly the learned people, educated people, and educated people who can also speak in different languages to create awareness. We have them stationed in the 6 area councils and the local emergency committee and national orientation. Then, because we were able to carry the traditional rulers along, they have promised us that they are going to feed us back quarterly, and they'll be calling meetings with members of their wards to find out, to get the feedback, the outcome of what we have taught them for the past 2 weeks during our sensitization programs.
All right, before we go, any last words to viewers out there before we wrap up?
Yes, I want to plead with viewers that we should be our brother's keepers. We should always think of the less privileged, the vulnerables. We should carry them along, give a helping hand at any point in time. We should stop dumping of refuse indiscriminately. We should clean our drainages. Don't drive on a pool of water, especially when it is flowing. Don't build on waterways. Monitor and identify the hazards within your environment. Keep your environments clean for a healthy living. You have to nurture that environment, because the environment there, we have to think of the biotic and abiotic, that is the living things and the non-living things. And of recent, we want to plead with everybody. If you can plant a tree somewhere to save erosion within your environment. Keep your drainages clean for a healthy living.
All right, thank you very much. I most appreciate you for being on the program, and this is the program Environment and You on Independent Television, and it's been Mrs. Florence Wenegieme, the Director for Casting Response and Mitigation from the FCT Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, doing justice to the topic of discussion. And I believe you must have heard or learned one or two things from today's episode. She has said it all. The issue of the environment is not just for the government alone. It's not just for one person. It is a holistic effort of everyone, all stakeholders, and we must have to come together to ensure a cleaner and a safer environment for us all. And this is where we wrap up the program today. Next week is another day for another interesting package on the program. I remain your regular host, Catherine Eyemese, and remember, cleanliness is next to godliness. See you next week.